Vayakheil, Tafshin Pei. We're going to review a little bit a side that's brought down in the Gemara, it's brought down in the Midrash, that the concept, the Mishkan, was built based on letters and not based on work. I'll explain myself, meaning that nowhere will you see that the word avodah is being used to describe the work. And it was probably a hard work in order to engrave, do certain things in the menorah and in the begadim of the kohen and so forth. But still, the word avodah is nowhere to be seen. Vateicher kol avodas. Yeah, at the end maybe. But that's not to describe the work. That's to describe the completion of everything. However, every time it's the Torah refers to the work of the Chachmelev, the intelligent people, and so forth, it's referred as melacha, a lighting. Exactly like Sheshes Yamim Tease Melacha. A melacha doesn't take a lot. Like on Shabbos, turning on the light, it's a melacha. So melacha doesn't require a lot of effort. Something the panos of a person. But let's not get out of subject and let's go directly to the psukim. Sorry, wrong one. Let's go again. I'm going to show a few digdukim in the pasuk, but really, we won't have much time to. It would take a year of shir to understand this whole inyan of Betzalel. So in Parshas Kisisa, HaKadosh Baruch Hu announced to Moshe Rabbeinu, Re'ei Karasi B'Shem. I don't know what he means. Karasi B'Shem, I called by name, Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur. Maybe you should go ben Chetzron, ben Peretz, ben Yehuda. I mean, you give me 3, but you don't give me more. Why? Lemate Yehuda. First one mentioned here, this triggers me, is the first Shevet when they used to walk in the Galim, when they used to travel in the Midbar, the first Shevet was Shevet Yehuda. Va'amale oisoi ruach Elohikim. And I filled him with ruach Elohikim. I don't know what ruach Elohikim is, but ruach Elohikim, the Midrash says in Berachos, it's the Zenish Masos Shel Mashiach. But he sent him the Mashiach here. So what is this ruach Elohikim? Bechochma, so he gave him chochma, tvuna. Tvuna is bina, but bina is really the first 3 midas. Keseh chochma bina, it's called ima ilah. But as soon as we go to Chagat, chesed gvura tiferes, it's the first tvuna. Netzach hoid yesod, second tvuna. So here he gave him tvuna, not bina, tvuna. And he gave him also das. So, and after that, uvechol melacha. It's interesting the language of the pasuk. If you didn't have the vav, you would translate. He gave him chochma, tvuna, das, to understand kol melacha. But since it says u, the same way you have here utvuna, it's another midah, it's another attribute that he received. Uvdas, what it means uvechol melacha. Uvechol melacha is not an attribute. If he understand how to make every single avodah, I'm going to call it avodah now, then it's because he has chochma, tvuna, and das. But uvchol melacha, it's not part of the intellect or knowledge or anything. It's part of the action. It's the action part. So what do you mean bechol melacha? Lachshav machshaves. Lachshav machshaves in Pashtus is kavanis. Lasa is bazahav ubakesef ubanechoshes. Then he was able to do any type of. So not only he could direct the workers, but he could do it himself, and that's the chiddush about Betzalel. I'm going to jump the pasuk here. Not going to go about everything, otherwise it will be too long. Va'ani, and I, hine, behold, nasati itoi. You couldn't say ve'itoi nasati, and with him I gave. Es Aholiav ben Achisamach. No, you have to say va'ani, hine, nasati itoi. Es Aholiav ben Achisamach, where it's coming from? Lemate Dan. In the Degalim, he was the last one. Lemate Dan, he was me'asef lechol ha'machnois. Everyone that was getting lost and everything, it was the people of Mate Dan that used to revive him, give him back koyach and getting him back into Am Yisrael. So we have here an interesting concept taking place. The first machne, the first shevet was Yehuda. The last shevet was Dan. They were responsible for the building of the Mishkan. Then the pasuk goes on, Ubleiv kol chacham leiv, and in the heart of any chacham leiv, nosati chochma. But chochma is in the head. Yisrael is li roish. Mean HaKadosh Baruch Hu insists that we work with our head. And then we build up our emotions. But we don't build up emotions and then we go learn. No, that's the opposite. That's what Hagoyim do. I don't think I'm going to have time to go over this, but just want to show you. In Parshas, that was in Parshas Kisisa. In Parshas Vayakheil, Mamish Moshe Rabbeinu used word for words. The only place he changed, it's when we talk about Aholiav. Here it says, Va'ani hinei nosati itoi, and Moshe says, Ulehoirois nosan belibo. I mean, lehoiros is to teach, to hu ve'aholiav. In other words, from the pasuk in Kisisa, it seems like Aholiav was just a helper. Nosati itoi, someone to help him, but he does not have the greatness of Betzalel, but he helps because he knows some. And ulehoiros hu ve'aholiav. Moshe Rabbeinu put them on the same level. Him and Aholiav, each one could do it. And that triggers a question that doesn't seem to be what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu. How did he diverge from the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to him? I just want to raise a few simple, very simple questions. Miriam was married with Caleb. She had Hur, the grandfather of Betzalel, ben Uri, ben Hur. Hur died when he went out, Bnei Yisrael with kind of getting not the Bnei Yisrael, Chas v'Shalom, the Erev Rav was pressing Aaron to create to make the eagle and so forth. He came out and told them off. It was Mechiach Dam Yisrael. They shechted him. So Aaron HaKohen, his cheshbon was, if they kill me and I'm the Kohen Gadol, there's never going to be a way to redeem that sin. Therefore, it's better I take upon myself to do me the ego, and I'll have the sin rather than Am Yisrael, because then they will reach a point, there's no return from that point. Only Chas v'Shalom extermination will be the last resort here. So Hur was killed. And why did Miriam deserve to be the mother of Betzalel? When I say the mother, great-grandmother of Betzalel, that he is the one, came from her the one that was responsible for building the Mishkan. We will see that no one else was able to build the Mishkan, only Betzalel. And at the time, to show his greatness, the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that Aleph-Bais says that he was only 13 years old, and Aholiav was younger than him. Some say he was only 7 years old. And that shows you the greatness. So what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu willing to show us through that? I understand there's a story behind the story right here we're starting to reveal. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu took two kids when we have the Sanhedrin, we have the Nesim of Bnei Yisrael, great Torah scholars, everything. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose two children. And they got to do something that resembles the creation of the world. The same way the world was created with 22 letters of the Torah, the same way the Mishkan was created with the 22 letters of the Torah. If you know how to assemble the letters, then you know how to create worlds. It's there's a lot of Gemaras about this. Thinking, I think it was a Rabbi in Baba Metzia. No, it's not Baba Metzia. It's in Kiddushin. That if tzaddikim wanted, they would create a world, and and he created a golem and sent it to Rabbi Zero and so forth. We have a lot of stories about this in the Gemara. All we have to know is the side of the 22 letters. Okay? Where it says in Berachos Nun Hey Amud Aleph that the greatness of Betzalel, he knew the side of how Shamayim or Aretz were created, meaning he knew what was the tziruf, what was the combination of the letters that together made Shamayim Ba'aretz. I'll give you an example. If you take bread, lechem, how did the lechem came to be? So on it, we make a bracha. Is with the yichud, a lamed, a ches, and a mem, create exactly this. You're making an apple. It's only because the letters of the apple create the tree of the apple. Now, if you take tapuach, the tes, the taf, the pei, the ches, create exactly the combination is a side, and that's how it's made of from the oir that come out from the three letters, come out of shefa, and when it comes down the or through the world, it becomes thicker until it becomes matter. We've learned this on Shabbos in the Eitz Chaim, plenty of it. So those who come to the shir understand that. The thicker the air becomes, because it goes through the worlds that are darker, the more matter the air has until it becomes only encompassed in the choshen, in the obscurity, in the matter itself. Okay. Now I'm going back to my Midrash, because I want to ask a very strong question. Yocheved, because she saved the kids at the time of birth, when Paro ordered her to kill them, she was zoiche to Keser Kehuna and Keser Melucha. Keser Kehuna is Aaron, Keser Melucha is Moshe Rabbeinu. Fine. She was zoiche, the next generation. Miriam, that, as we're going to see, there's a Midrash that she took it to Paro. And she was not scared to tell him what's going to happen to him. And you will see that Paro knew about it, that killing the Jews, it's not doable. And he will sow his punishment. Why is she receiving only 4 generations later her reward? And if you're telling me that's the reward, though she did Mesirus Nefesh when she waited for her brother on the bank of the Nile. She did Mesirus Nefesh when she took it to Paro. She did Mesirus Nefesh. The Midrash keeps on telling the Maisi Miriam used to do when one woman didn't have what to eat or something hot or whatever. She used to run by the rich woman and ask for them for this, and she used to bring her and she used to help with the baby. Tremendous Mesirus Nefesh. Maybe she should have been the one to receive the reward within a generation. What did he have to wait for? And maybe if Betzalel has such great ancestors, why not his father, Uri, to receive such a reward? Why didn't he receive it? Amazing. I mean, once we go into that story, we see things don't really make sense around. Let's go into the Midrash itself, because the Midrash carries a lot of weight here. The Midrash Parshas Vayakal, Midrash Tanchuma, tells us very clearly. It says in the pasuk that because they saved the children and did not listen to Paro, Vayas Lohem Batim, he made them houses. Everybody in every Mefarish tries to say what he means by Vayas Lohem Batim. So the Midrash asks, what kind of houses did he build HaKadosh Baruch Hu for them? Bes Kehuna uBes Malchus. The house of Kehuna and the house of royalty. Yocheved took both of them. Aaron was a kohen and Moshe was a melech. As we say, by Bishul Melech Beisas Hashem Yachad Shiftei Yisrael. Moshe in his time was a melech. He was the first melech in Israel. And then the Midrash asks, so what did Miriam get in order, for as a reward? She got Chochmah. And the pasuk, which is also, everything here has a depth that I've very rarely seen in a parsha. Yiras Hashem hi chochmah. Fearing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is a sign of prophet. Being brazen, being I have emunah, nothing will happen to me. That's not. This is being brazen. This is Azus of Tuma. This is Azus the Sitra Achra. someone, when we come to Hashem, when we come to the Beis Hashem, we come to the shul and everything, we have to have yira. If we don't feel yira in our barometer, then something is wrong. We don't have yet a das d'Kedusha. We're lacking in the das of knowing who is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if we would have knowledge who is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we would come with fear. Anyway, so Chochmah, Miriam got, that Betzalel came out of her, and it says, V'amalo Yisrael Ruach Elohim. That's the pasuk. I don't get it. It says, Vayas lahem batim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made for them. Them means two. Minimum two. Miriam, Yocheved. But the Midrash touches up only one. That Yocheved got all the batim, but not Miriam. She got Chochmah. Who cares? Well, Moshe was lacking Chochmah. Aaron was lacking Chochmah. Aaron was lacking Tvuna. He had Bina. Moshe had Bina on top of this. Das, it's only a consequence of Chochmah and Bina. So they both had it. So what's the spitz about Betzalel that he is a reward to Miriam? Besides that, how can you tell me this is the reward of Miriam? Yocheved is the mother of Miriam. Betzalel is just her grandkid, one more generation passed. So it's not something. Yocheved got Moshe and Aaron, that the sister, Miriam, the brothers of Miriam. So it's not her descendants. But Betzalel is a descendant of Miriam as much as he is the one of Yocheved. So where is the reward of Miriam for what she has done? Because if we don't understand the yesod of Betzalel himself, we will never understand what he achieved. And we will never understand what was the tzinoir that he came and how he used in order to achieve what he did with creating the Mishkan in a record time and tremendous avodah with people that never learned how to do, all these things. Now we're going to go to the Midrash in Shmos Rabbah, meaning Midrash Rabbah. So we were in the Tanchuma. That when Miriam was saving those children, she was only 5 years old. Because Aaron is 3 years older than Moshe Rabbeinu, and he was only 2 years old at that time. So automatically learned the Midrash that when she was acting as a midwife, she was 5 years old. And the Midrash is going to go on and on and on about the greatness of Miriam and what she has done for the Yoldos, the woman giving birth of Am Yisrael at this time of need, what she was doing. Why one was called Shifra, one was called Pua, but mostly the Midrash goes on Pua and describe the greatness. However, towards the end of the Midrash, he recounts differently than what's said in the pasuk, that altercation, can I say that way, between Paroi and Yocheved and Miriam. In the pasuk, he told them, he just wanted to do, as I said, and they told him, because the the Jewish woman don't give birth the same way as the Egyptian woman. But the Midrash tells us a story behind the story. Miriam stood up before him, 5 years old Miriam, and she told him, "Oi, on you, evil king, do you think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to make you pay for your murders? He says, will come your day, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will demand every one of them from you, and you will be punished in the most horrible way." At that moment, Pharaoh took his sword, wanted to kill Miriam. And Yocheved, and that's probably also why, she deserved quicker, saved her life by telling Pharaoh, "Come on, you're ruling over the world. She was only a kid. How can you get insulted by a kid? She doesn't have that. She doesn't know what she said." Pharaoh got to be ashamed and calm down. However, I want to point out that the Torah is already speaking to us in Remazim. From that time, if I'm taking here, if we take her name, Pur, okay? Because out of all the names, what would you call her Pur only? Equals 161. I have nothing else to say. This shows the level of Miriam. Shem Kasa of the Bina. She was able to access the Bina at 5 years old. The greatness of Miriam. And somehow related to this name Pua, to this Shem Kasa of the Bina, she was Zoiche to Betzalel. The only thing is we don't have exactly the way to connect the two of them and understand how Betzalel turned into a reward to Miriam. Midrash after Midrash after Midrash describes. Let me tell you a Midrash, because it's good to know the story behind the story. You Jews Midrash. Most Rabbi Aleph-Bais on Pashas Shmoyes. They were faced with a difficulty, Yocheved and Miriam. Sometimes you have babies that are stillborn, Ch'mana litzlan. They're dead. So now they thought in their head, they thought that people are going to suspect us that we killed the baby, like Pharaoh requested. How can we let this baby be lifeless? It's impossible. So they said, they have to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please have mercy on us, because now we have no pesha in our hands, but people might suspect us. Please give back life to that child so he should live healthy and successfully and everything. Right away, the child would come back to life. Amazing. Sometimes, as it's nature of the world, some children will be born blind. They used to think people are going to think that we try to kill him, but we only blinded him. They used to doubt him. There was no one child. When it says in the pasuk, "Vatechayenu es hayeladim," it's not they saved. They also did something else. They revived. That's the lashon "Vatechayenu." They revived the yeladim that were dead. They revived the yeladim that had a mum that would be considered death, like not seeing. Any mum that a child had, mother and daughters, you to turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in tefillah, and automatically the child will be 100% healthy. Now that when you look at the words of the pasuk, you look at them in a different way, because it's not vatechayena, because they were already alive, those who were born. Oh, they didn't kill them. So he should say she didn't kill them. What it means, vatechayena? They revived them. Because they revived the dead. Up to there. That's the titkus of... So now we are faced with one big problem. Yocheved took everything. Vayas lahem batim. She took bate kenehuna, bate malchus. When it says clearly in the pasuk that these batim were intended for both of them, they didn't share. Everything went to Yocheved according to Midrash Tanchuma. Now there is a Midrash Rabbah that is chaylet on this in principle. We're going to explain, because from this, it's when you clash two silences that you have oil coming. What a light! After that, you can what's coming out. Brings the pasuk. And he says, indeed, the two houses were Bate Kehuna and Bate Malchus. Yocheved took Bate Kehuna with Aaron. I guess that's the way I learned it. Moshe is included in Bate Kehuna because he was a Levi. He was acting during the 7 days of the inauguration of the Mishkan as the Kohen Gadol. So he took Bate Kehuna. Bate Malchus is Miriam that took it. Why? Betzalel. It's a lot of sense. Lemate Yehuda. Mashiach, David, the whole lineage coming from Betzalel. Miriam, which was a Levi, married Caleb, which was from Shevet Yehuda, was the Nasi of Yehuda, means the Nitzitz of Mashiach was going through him. The Nitzitz of Malchus based David was going through him. And he went through Miriam till he reached Betzalel. Doesn't answer why her son Hur or her son Uri or the grandson Uri didn't get the thing. But at least we start through this Midrash, which clashes with the Midrash Tanchuma. We understand. However, this machlekes really is not, when there's a machlekes, based on Chochmah, we can understand two Midrashim, Tanoim, Amoraim, the Cholek on a shtickle of Chochmah, which is Divrei Elokim Imal. But to say, oh, what did she get? How do we refer? How do we touch the pasuk? Unless we have foundation in the language of the pasuk to go one way or another, where is the Chochmah in there? Even according to Tanchuma, we knew Betzalel was Lemate Yehuda. So why did he touch Bate Malchus to Betzalel? We have to understand there's something a lot deeper than all this. But at least we see that there are moving parts here. It's not rigid. We're going to see at the end, there's no machlekes between and the way we touch the Midrash, it's not the right way to touch it. Let's see the how Torah works here. In the Gemara, so now I'm going to do the opposite. I wasn't able to go from the top down. I'm going to go from the bottom up. In the Gemara, in Berachos Nun Hey Amud Aleph, huge Gemara. You look at Midrash Agadol, says it also. You look in Yaakov Shemaini, says it. But it's in the Gemara, it's much easier. Omar Rab Shmuel Banachmani. Rab Shmuel Banachmani said in the name of Yenosah. Betzalel was called Betzalel al Shem Chachmasel, because of his Chach. In other words, the only purpose the Torah names him Betzalel is because of his Chachma. Could be he had another name, but he's called Betzalel based on his Chach. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu in Pashas Truma, go and build a Mishkan, build an Aron, the Aron HaKodesh, the Aron HaIdus, where the Luchas are, and build Kelim. Moshe Rabbeinu and he told him to go to Betzalel because HaKadosh Baruch Hu filled him with Chochmah, Tvuna, and Das. Moshe Rabbeinu was a little bit hesitant. A kid, at the end of the day, kid. How much can you put in a kid? How much can contain? We all know that the level of oil that can go somewhere, it all depending of how much can the kli take. If someone has a 4-ounce cup, you may be willing to give him 8 ounces of drink, but they're going to spill because he can only contain 4 ounces. So he went telling him just the opposite. He told him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu ordered me to make the kelim, to create an aron, and make a Mishkan. So Betzalel answered very diplomatically to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, usually a person first builds a house, and after that only he brings in the kelim, whatever he wants to put inside. And you're telling me to do the opposite. So the kelim that I'm building, where am I going to put them in? In the meantime, that we complete the Mishkan, where am I going to do with it? He says, maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu told you to create a Mishkan, an Aron, and the kelim. At least maybe. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, you were in the shadow of Kel, Betzalel. Tzel is the shadow. Betzalel, in the shadow of Kel. Were you there when HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to me that you heard? To tell you that Moshe Rabbeinu was very impressed by the Chochmah of Betzalel at such a young age. In other words, also, Moshe Rabbeinu is revealing us that Betzalel means Betzel Kel, in the shadow of the name Kel, which is in the Chesed. Abraham is the midah of the Chesed. We'll see. And the Gemara keeps on going and tell us that Betzalel knew how to assemble the letters to assemble the letters with which Shamayim va'aretz were created. Chachma and Bina, the true Shamayim va'aretz. It doesn't make any difference after that. You're taking it spiritually or we're taking it the physical one, because the physical one is only a reflection a light that traveled very far from its source and got into the matter and it became physical. That's all it is. The physicality truly doesn't exist. In every electron of the sky, there's the air of the letter. Only the matter, encompasses it, and we can't see the air because it's so far away from its source. But really, that's what it is. As it says in the pasuk, "Vaymalei oisoi ruach Elokim bechochma bitvuna uvdas." HaKadosh Baruch Hu filled him with three midas: chochma, tvuna, and das. And this ruach Elokim, which I did not answer because so far I don't know what it is. But we'll answer everything to understand this pasuk. And Shlomo HaMelech say, exactly Shlomo HaMelech, Betzalel, they both had that chokhmah, that coming from high and above, reveals Hashem bechokhmah yasad eretz. Aretz. Koinen shamayim bisvuna. It took chokhmah to create the land, but it took tvuna, which is less, 2 meters less than chokhmah, to create the skies, the heavens. Vedatoi. So now you see chokhmah for eretz, tvuna for shamayim. And the pasuk ends, "Bedatoi tehoimois nifkeu," and the tehoim, all the tehoim was created with das. In other words, Shlomo HaMelech tell us, reveal, kilachar yad, what are the three midas with which Betzalel was blessed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with Chochmah, our world. The upper with Tvuna, the under with Das. What did he receive, Betzalel? Chochmah, Tvuna, Das. Exactly the types of the Gemara. That he knew that Sirufim, with which all the worlds were created. The whole Bria was done. And that's revealed by Shlomo HaMelech, just pretending to Midrash Tanchuma, Vayakelehem. It's going to say, bring a pasuk that's going to start opening us, giving us a rail in order to understand what's going on. I didn't copy it, I'm sorry, but it's an important pasuk, so bear with me, I will copy it right away. So now I want to open another one. Say the ICS. Page 4. This pasuk. Oh, yeah, I copied the wrong one. Sorry. No, it's not this one. Pasuk in Eoy. The previous pasuk was basically a little bit earlier in the Midrash. I just skipped it. That Yahev Chochmasa lechakimin. A person cannot receive Chochmah unless he's a Chacham already. In other words, a person, everything we do in life we have to have a kli for it. Uminda, and we cannot have das only leyad e bina. Those already who have a little bit. The Baal Shem says, do you know why we have to daven? Do you know what we have to read words? This is going to tilt with the shir we had last week in Oitzras Chaim, how we ended the shir, that the oisios are the kli. Says the Baal Shem, when we say the oisios of the tefillah, the way we say them is the kli we have prepared in order to have oir. If we said them correctly and well and intentionally, they're big and they can get a lot of shefa. So our tefillah can bring a lot of shefa, a bracha. But if they have been done like the Chinese train that goes 300 miles an hour, or anything like this, you understand what's going to happen. That I'm closing that point. That's a general rule. You can only contain if you are a vessel. If you are not a vessel, go work and become a kli. As long as you're not a kli. So when the Midrash comes and explaining the Ruach Eloikim, Achen Ruach, indeed, it is a spirit, be'enosh, in a person, ve'nishmas shakai tevina. And the one who has a neshama from shakai, which is the yesod, can understand. Wow. Eoiv here is throwing soid after soid. Ruach Eloikim, for someone who has a regular neshama from the Malchus, and if he has Malchus de Asiya, doesn't understand much. If he has a Malchus de Yetzira, a bit more. He has a Malchus de Bria, he's learning Soid. He understands Soid. He has a Malchus de Atzilus, his eyes see what nobody can see. People would say, if he would describe what he sees, people would think he needs quickly a doctor. He needs to be interned. But it all depends on the neshama. And here it says, "V'nishmas shakai tevina." In other words, if the Midrash brings this here to touch the Ruach Eloikim, I know that I have to pay attention to these words. So now, Knesset Yisrael, which comprehends all the neshamas of the Bnei Yisrael, is in the Malchus. Okay, the guy is a huge tzaddik, he's in the Malchus de Atzilus. Malchus de Atzilus. But he's not Yosef HaTzadik yet. Yosef HaTzadik was in the Yesod de Atzilus. And guess what? Eof tells us Betzalel is in the Yesod de Atzilus. Together with Yosef. Same place. Above the Malchus. Amazing. And there's a whole side how we can say he's in the Chesed, what he means. I just want to show you something. Now we know he's holding in the Yesod. If I'm going to have time to explain you, how can he be in the Yesod and in the Chesed Betzal Kel? Let's just take this here. Nishma Shakai 1104 equal Roish B'nei Yisrael. Someone who has a neshama from the Yesod is always at the head. Sometimes you have some people that have Islam and a shama from the Sitra Achra, they also want to pick up the head. They want to be Mistar and Israel. But we're not talking about those guys. Naso is Rosh Ben Israel. Raise the head of the Bnei Israel. It never say count. Always the head of the Bnei Israel. Because this is where it counts. Why do you mean raise? Raise them from the Malchus to the Yesod, because then they can receive. Even if the guy is in the Malchus of the Yesod, the lowest middle of the Yesod, it's already much bigger than being in the Malchus, in the Keser of the Malchus. It's a huge difference. And this is equal also to Sar HaTorah. That shows us how big Betzalel was already at his age. He knew the whole Torah Kula, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was impressed with. Why? Because this comes through the Neshama. Torah, Yismach Moshe b'matenas chelkoi. We say every Shabbos. How is the Torah given? B'matana. Torah is a matana. What effort do I have to do to receive a bigger matana? Again, it's the vessel versus its content. They both go hand in hand. You cannot have a small vessel and require a request to contain a lot more, because it's a law of physics here. So you have to raise yourself with your ma'asim, get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Automatically, your vessel will get bigger, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will fit it. Va'amalei oisoi. And I filled him. Whatever he can contain, I gave him. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hinting here the greatness of Betzalel. It's not that I made him a new person. No, he made himself a great person. He made himself a great Kli. What did I do? Only filled it up. Didn't have to do much. Only umilesi. That's why the lotion is always a lotion of filling. Filling is you fill a vessel. And the Kli is Betzalel. And he was already a great Kli. And that's why you see Sar HaTorah, because prior to receive those matanas from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he enabled himself to become a huge vessel. And that's the reason that he received such matanas. Zera Kodesh here digs into and reveals even more parts of the greatness of Betzalel. And he says that the creation of the world is exactly, I should have said the opposite. The creation of the Mishkan followed exactly the rules of the creation of the world. Because if we look in Sefer Yetzirah and so forth, we would see that the Mishkan is basically the world in small. But the whole world is there. Whatever there is in the world, there's nothing in the world that's not in the Mishkan. And there's nothing in the letters, the 22 letters that were used to create the world that were not used in the Mishkan in the same fashion. It begs Hashem. You know, maybe I'll give a share. I know it's very advanced, but maybe I'll give a share on this on Shabbos, and I'll show you how the letters work. All the letters. It's amazing. Amazing. So the Zohar brings a raya from a proof to this because it says Eile Pekudei HaMishkan. These are the orders of the Mishkan, and it says about the world Eile Toldos Hashamayim veHaaretz. So when you use the word Eile, the Zohar makes a Gzera Shava that it refers to the fact that the way it was created was identical in the Mishkan as it was in the world. What it means? That all of them, it says in the Pasuk, in Tehillim, Olam Chesed Yibane. The world will be created with Chesed. So we have tendency to explain, which is right also, depending on the context, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, in a forgiving manner, that we have to have chesed in this world, otherwise the world cannot exist. Now, the Zohar says that's not the touch here. The touch is the oir of the chesed is so big that with that oir, everything was created. And explain the Zohar. This is the pedigree of Betzalel. Betzalel, that he was holding, he was in the shadow of the chesed where the name Kel is and shine. Remember the name Kel, why is it so has such he'aros, has such enlightenment, light. It's at the head of the Yud Gimel Midas the Rachamim also. So everything, the Chesed is connected. And how is it possible if he's holding in the Yesod, if his neshama is from the Yesod, how can he be in the Chesed? It doesn't make any sense. Says the Zohar HaKadosh. Betzalel ben Uri. Uri, it means the Oir, with the Yud Midos. Oir, Yud, the Oir of the Chochmah, from which the Chesed comes out. Ben Chur, what's the color of the Chesed? White, Chivar, Chur. Betzalel knew how to get them to function. He knew how to activate them. Because the Yesod is always siding to, even though he's in the center, but he's siding to the right and has a direct, if you look at in the Oisios, in the tree that we have, we share and we learn from, you're going to see that he has, it's connected directly to the Chesed, the Yesod. And this is where, now, basically the Zohar tells us that Betzalel knew how to activate things. There's a tremendous yesod that you should never forget and repeat it to yourself, because this is how the world works. It doesn't matter if it's a physical world, if it's a spiritual world, if it's hyper spiritual or wherever or on the world. Doesn't matter. This is a rule. It says in the Pasuk, "V'nahar yoytze me'eden." Nahar is long, is the Yesod. Comes out from Eden, the Bina, the Gan Eden or Eden. And so the Bina wants to send Shefa, the only one to conduct. Think about how they used to send out logs in the forest. They used to put them in the river downstream, and this is how they used to sell them until the village or whatever city or market they were sending them. The Nahar is the moving part. It takes the shofar from the bina and brings it all the way at lehashkois es hagam, to give it to the malchus, and then the malchus will give it to the one down below. Huge yesod. And again, we're going to use that yesod to understand our psukim. We had here said a word we didn't understand. And Moshe will explain them. He's going to say in Pashas Vayikehel Kara B'Shem. I just have it here, so I'll take it. Kara B'Shem. So what it means Kara B'Shem, that even Moshe Rabbeinu has to repeat, equals 643. Equals a Yesiring, Bina, Yesod, Malchus. Exactly what we just described. V'nahar yotzeh me'eden lehashkois es hagad. He was in Nishmas Shakai. He was in the Yesod, towards the Chesed, to activate the light of the Chesed. Like when you create a world, Olam Chesed Yibane, you need to create it with Chesed. And then to feed that world, to make it exist, you need the shofar from the Bina. V'nahar yotzeh me'eden. So the Yesod, which is Betzalel, knew how to go up to the Bina to get the shofar and bring it to the Malchus. And with that, he was able to create the Mishkan. If I may get out of subject a little bit, and I'm going to take a total different course to when I thought I'm going to bring you into, because I think it's important, and I think it's gonna answer our questions in a better way. And Bineda, I'll finish on this year also. Yeah, it's going to take just a few minutes. What is the Mishkan? If you ask yourself a question, okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us to bring the Mishkan. You think the Mishkan were the walls? You think the Mishkan were the post? Yeah, in that case, if that's what it is. So how many miracles, so many miracles can live into something so physical? Because we just learned that only a vessel can contain light. And if you're not, and if you're making miracles, mean you are not physical. You are spiritual. You look physical, but you are spiritual. And in order to be spiritual, you need oil. And in order to contain oil, you need a kli. So where is the kli? I'm asking the question again. What is the Mishkan? When HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm just going to quote the Midrash, I quoted it a few times, one of the Yesodos of understanding the world. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu told in Shemayim that I'm going to create the man, you had a few midas that were gathered there. I mean, do attributes talk? I'll let you understand with your own philosophy. Chesed said, yes, great. Create the man. He's going to do chesed. Chesed doesn't focus on the bad, focus on the good. Pay attention. The person is doing also bad. Emes said, no, don't create him because he's going to lie. Emes cannot stand even 1 ounce of bad. Take away the word emes. Emes is complete. All truth. If it's lacking one little iota of emes, it's not emes. So therefore, the emes cannot live with it has to focus also on the back. Look at the extremes. Chesed is great. It's the Shem Abba, the Shem of the Chochmah, the Yud Kevav Ke the Yudin. I mean, come on. How much light can we have? But still, Emes is the one that's fully complete. What is HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes the Yashlech Emes Arza. He took the Emes and threw him down to the land. Malachi Mas, no need to go there, but I just want to talk about these attributes and build everything with them, because it's much easier to understand. Emes, yeah, we know it's Kayib, it's 441, Kayib times Kayib. HaKadosh Baruch Hu punished the Emes, supposedly. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Shefet Tzedek. He does everything with measure and applies everything the right way. So why is Shalom not being punished? Shalom would say exactly what the Emes said, that men will fight, because the tiny bit of a fight, of kina, of sina, it's already no shalom. Shalom is complete. But shalom is not being, remains in Shaman. Emes is there. Now, if we touch a little bit differently and we go a little bit deeper in the pasuk, you have here V'sashlech emetz aretz. Who's the aretz? Is the Malchus, right? We all know that. The kinui of the Malchus is Eretz. And if that's the kinui of the Malchus, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent the Emes to the Malchus. Why did he send the Emes to the Malchus? Because the Malchus is also in the Alpha. Malchus, you know, with the Chatoim of the Tachtenim, falls to the ground. We had a whole shir about this. No need to go back on this. However, the way to enable the Malchus to get up is through the Emes. When a person sticks to the Emes, Chesed ve'emes nifgashu. When the person had the faculty to only go and midebra sheker tichak and not say even jokes, not to lie through his mouth, the Emes is raised, and the Shechina goes all the way up to the Keser. Rachel Imein, 345, Kel Shakai. The yichud of bringing up the Malchus to the Keser by simply sticking to the truth. Not every time. It's politically not fair. Doing this. It's, you know, you want to change a little bit. I'm not doing much. I am not doing much. Yes, you are doing a lot. You are not sticking to the Emes. You're then sticking to the Sheker, because the Emes cannot take 0.001% of Sheker. You cannot do that. Emes v'shalom nashar. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from his midah of shalom, he comes. So till now, he was the Malchus sending the Shefa. But there is a situation when HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly gives us the bracha. Look at this. I'm going to show it to you in the word. It'll be easier. If we take what Moshe said, fully, I have it down here. I just add sorry. Moshe added Yud Ke Vav Ke. Sorry, I should not. Okay. Paste. So here, we have to. Kara Asher B'Shem equals, so 26, 643, 669. 669 equal Venosati Shalom Ba'aretz. Sorry, Venosati. It's a puzzle. V'shavtem labetach be'atzechem, and this is a haftacha that Shalom, which is also a name for the Mishkan, will come on earth. Means HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, not only the Shechina, because the only place HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes down on earth is in the Mishkan. No wonder Bnei Israel didn't need an army when there was the Beis Hamikdash. People were scared to come. So we have here a combination of three midas that you had to put them together. We had Chesed, we had Emes, and we have Shalom. Equals 889. Equal Mishkan Ha'edus, as it's written in the Torah without God. Now, obviously, each one take letters. I didn't want to go too much in the letters here to complicate but the Mishkan, what Betzalel was supposed to do, he was supposed to do it through the Midas, which Midas are represented by letters, as we're going to see in Shabbos B'ez Hashem, if we are zoichet to these, and we're going to see that this is what was the yesod of the Mishkan. And I want to finish with something else which I wrote on the previous year I gave today. If you look at what, I usually don't like to cross shiurim and talk about different things, but I think this is big. Ruach Elokim, it says Ruach Elokim Chochma Tevuna Das equals 1,310. We are right after the Egel. We are in the Midbar. Who are the clippers of the Midbar? Nachash, Saraf, and Akrab. 1,310. Remember from the Metzora? Why is he thrown out of Michutz Lamachne? Because he's chet. Oh, you want to take down your friend with Lashon Hara? Very good, very good. Go amongst your friend in the Midbar. He starts seeing the Shindalet, he starts seeing the Ruach Yisrael, and he gets very scared. And that shows him the amplitude of his chet. So he makes tshuva. How do you make tshuva here? Emes me'eres titzma. The emes has to come from the malchus. You raise the malchus with it. You have to stick to the emes. You can't be firk. You can't put 0.10. Equals the three amudim of the oilam. Torah, avodah, gmilut chasadim. The same way it takes Ruach Elokim, Chochma, Tvuna, Das to make the world stand, as it says in the Mishnah from Shimon HaTzadik in Avos, Aleph, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Bais. Torah, Avodah, Gmilus Chasadim. It takes exactly the three Amudim in order to build the Mishkan. And that's why he needed Ruach Elohikim, Chachma, Tvuna, Das. When I told you, he only says the word Melacha in the Mishkan, look what Melacha equals to. Look at the Yichud. It's the Yichud of the Malchus. All the purpose of the Mishkan was to raise the Malchus and keep her in position next to the Bina, Yesod, Malchus, tremendous Yichud, and this protects the Am Yisrael. This gives Shalom Ba'aretz. This gives, all the brachas, Biklaliyus and Bipratius, and we shall be Zoiche, Bes Hashem, to Geula Shlema Bimera B'Yameinu, Amen.